In this series of videos, I will be doing the Q&A all about Etsy. Done is in these videos you will see actually retakes, or I've downloaded all the morning shows and I put them on a hard drive, and then what I'm doing is I'm recreating those live shows in my pre-recorded how-to playlist. So I'll be having those for each of the shows that I do during the week. So hopefully this will help you. That way, if you have any questions that are pertaining to what we talked about in the show, you can also do the comment section of the video down below, and I'll be glad to add that to my list of questions if you may have them. And hopefully we'll see you in the next morning show. I would like you to do me a big favor. Right below this video, that word subscribe, make sure you subscribe to the channel, especially if you like the content. And also, after you do that, make sure right next to it there's the notifications. Make sure you hit all three, because the very top one is where you get all your notifications at. Then also hit me the thumbs up. That does help the channel. But most importantly, give me those comments below, because guess what? That helps the channel, but it also helps me interact with you, because I do answer each and every one of those comments.
So here we go with our Q&A, all about Etsy. Here's DzinesLaura. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, everybody. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Friday morning.
So I know you sent me a link that we were talking about last Friday, that you told somebody that someone asked a question, and you said you were going to do the research and bring that results this morning, and you did send me the link. I didn't get a chance to read it yet.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm gonna break it all apart for you. I just thought if somebody wanted to fact check what I'm saying, you don't need to read it unless you really want to, but if anybody wants to fact check me, I'm going to give you the link that was my source, is what I wanted to do. So yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to drop that link in the channel.
Okay.
But before we get started with the actual Q&A, to give people a chance to start asking questions, talk a little bit about your channel, what you're starting to do with your lives, and also a little bit more promote yourself.
Okay. Well, my name's Laura. I've been creating jewelry since 1993. I did my first in-person show 30 years ago. Actually, tomorrow will be my 30-year anniversary, the first Saturday of March. I made my first online sale in 2012, so 10 years of that, almost 13 years coming up. And I made my first YouTube sale this year. My first live from my channel was yesterday. It was a test live, and people actually did show up. So if you want to feel good about yourself, watch that live, because it was a hot mess, but I did it. And Johnny, I followed your instructions on your YouTube videos.
Awesome.
And I did not need to get permission from YouTube like I originally thought. So yeah, I'm in my future events. Saturday, I'm having a birthday bash. Saturday is my birthday. I'm going to go live, so now I can do it. But I am going to be working through my clunkiness in showing the items. So it's still going to be kind of testing, but I am going to go live, and there will be some deals on my handmade jewelry, because it's my birthday and we're going to celebrate. I am doing a co-sale with Maria California Thrifter, Jane Newhouse, on Jane's channel, which is Doggone Happy Vintage. That is going to be March 13th. It's a Monday, and it's going to be a late night sale. I watched last week's sale, and it was a hoot. Those ladies are funny. So if you just want to relax in the evening and have a good laugh, that's the place to be.
One of the things I have to say about Laura, which she hasn't mentioned yet, is I know when she first started coming into the chat, she had some questions, and she has been watching some of the how-to videos that I put out. And thank you for that, because I'm glad it's helping you. That's the main reason I started doing that, for that reason, to help those out, and I do step by step for that reason. But Laura was one of those that when she first started, she was nervous. And you know that special word I love to hear in the chat when somebody comes in, that word yet. And she just did it. She just went on ahead and started doing videos. And so that's the thing about it, just do it. You know, you're going to learn from your mistakes, and there's nothing wrong with that.
All right. So the question that came up that I did not have an answer for was regarding, it's called Google Partner Checkout Program. I remember reading about it while I was reading up on Etsy's outside ads. That's why my counter question to the person was, are you participating in Etsy outside ads? And I'm going from memory. I'm pretty sure they said no.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so according to Etsy's own handbook, they are not putting any listings in their partner checkout program unless you are participating in Etsy outside ads. So I'm not sure why. Maybe there is a possibility you're participating in outside ads and you're not aware of it. My understanding is when a shop opens up, you're automatically enrolled into the outside ads and that you need to toggle that off. Now, if I'm wrong or they change that, I apologize, but I think it's a good thing to double check. If you don't want to participate in the outside ads, I believe you need to toggle that off. The outside ads are very different than the ads that are on Etsy. And this is the part with Etsy that gets confusing because they have so many different programs and the variations of it are very, very different. Now, there is some controversy. I did go through the forums and I read there are some sellers who are upset about the partner checkout program. And what it is a shopper, a buyer, a customer can be on Google, and they were mentioning Facebook too, looking like shopping, and they can purchase an item that's on Etsy without ever going to the Etsy website. Etsy is promoting it as you're going to get more traffic and it's easier for the customer. There's a lot of controversy around it, so you should probably really know the facts before you. There are little tricks to get out of it if you don't want to be in it. And the reason I didn't know about it is because I don't offer free shipping. Your listing has to fit very specific criteria for Etsy to put you in this. You have to offer free shipping. You have to be located in the United States and shipping to the United States. Your listing cannot have any variations. I tried to go onto Google and find one of these to confirm that you cannot see the description, but I was unable to find one that fit all of these variations. So the buyer can see your title, your photos, your shipping policy, not your shipping cost because it must be free shipping. They can see your policies. They cannot see your description, which I think is where a lot of the controversy comes from, at least half of it. If the buyer isn't reading the description, they're going to have a misconception of what they receive, and they're going to probably want to return it or leave bad feedback. And that happens a lot. The other thing that and this is the part I was unable to fact check. People on Etsy think that your information, like if you made a sale on Facebook, that Facebook will now have your information because Etsy says they will give, Facebook enough information on you. What if you sell over $600? I know the $600 has been put on delay. Will we be getting, that 1099 from Facebook? And how does Facebook get our information and how do they protect it? But I was unable to fact check how much information the other party like Google or Facebook gets about us. I can't find it anywhere. Makes me think that maybe sometimes the buyer or the Etsy shop is upset and maybe they heard it somewhere and they just didn't fact check it. So now the fact that Etsy has a policy different than eBay, you are allowed to put text in your photos. So if you're someone who does want to participate in the checkout program, you could, not your first photo, but in your photos after that, you could put pertinent information that otherwise would be in your description. You are allowed to put that. I have seen shops successfully use a picture of text to help sell their item to those who don't read the description. Yeah, on eBay, you're not allowed to put text in your photos. Etsy, yes, you can. So, and use that to your benefit. And the other thing that will get you out, that will make your listing not eligible, is if you have a personalization that's required. Now remember, on personalization on Etsy, there's a toggle where it's required or not required. So you can still offer personalization on an item with no variations and free shipping to the US as long as your personalization is not required.
Where would we find the settings for this type of stuff if we don't want to, if we want to opt out on the Google search?
Okay, on the Google. Okay, so for the partner checkout, there is no way to opt out. Like, you can't just go in and toggle it off. Etsy's going to put you in there if your listings fit their criteria. So if you don't want to be in it, if you have this is so confusing, you guys, I'm sorry. First of all, if you're like me and you're forced to be in offsite ads, then I'm also forced into the partner checkout program. There's no way for me to get out. Newer shops who've made less than 10,000 every year they've been on can opt out of the offsite ads. So that would be your way. If you don't want to participate in offsite ads, opt out of that, and you won't be included in the partner checkout program. My shop, the way I'm not eligible to be in the partner checkout because I charge for shipping. So right there, that knocks me out. All of my listings have a variation, whether it's a size or a color or a class. That knocks me out. And I also require personalization on some of my listings, which knocks me out. So I'm out on 3. I hope that made sense. It's very.
So are they charging us for anything that has to do with the Google ads or any partnership programs?
Okay. Okay. So the offsite ads, not the partner checkout, but the offsite ads, you're either charged 12% on the total sale or 15% on the total sale if somebody clicks on it and makes a purchase. If somebody only clicks, there's no charge. Now that's different than on-site ads. So realize there are times you could get charged. If somebody uses the partner checkout, there is no advertising fee. You will pay your normal Etsy fees, but there is no, and I fact checked that. So there is a partner checkout. There's no advertising fee, but the customer cannot see your description, and that sale, the terms, your sale is not going to fall under the terms of Etsy. It falls under the terms of Facebook or Google. And Facebook, I didn't factually check this, but somebody said that Facebook requires 30-day returns. If that's true, that sale that you made, you have to follow Facebook's terms of use. Even if your listing says no returns, that's my understanding. The way I read this is that sale now falls under Facebook, which was causing a lot of controversy because sellers didn't want, A, they didn't want their information sent to Facebook, and B, they didn't want to use Facebook's terms of use. So anybody who does not want to use the partner checkout, I think it's fairly easy to get out of it by not allowing your listing to fall under their criteria.
So you get a notification if it sells through the partner checkout program through Facebook? How do you know? I read that, and I wish I could have went into my dashboard to look, but I know I've never had one. Etsy did not tell us how to know the difference. It will appear in your sales just like any other sale. Now the customer gets 2 emails, sale notification emails. They get an email notification from Etsy and a notification from whoever the partner was, whether it was Google or Facebook. So they're getting 2 notifications. If anyone out there has had one of these sales, if you could tell us how you knew, that would be really good information, because I was unable to find that. All right, Laura has a question. To get your payouts, can you link PayPal to your Etsy, or does it link to directly to your bank?
Back in the old days of Etsy, before they required to use Etsy payments, you could link your PayPal. If you're in the United States, I don't know about every other country, because there are some countries that are still using PayPal with Etsy. But if you're in the United States, I think most of us are. If not, I apologize. But no, you can no longer link your PayPal account. You must link a bank account to get your payouts.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, you do not get paid until the 3 is it 3 days after they receive the item, and they do a feedback, correct?
It's different whether you're an established shop or if you're brand new making your first sale. And it's been so long since I've been brand new, and the policies have changed. If you're an established shop, you make a sale, like I made a sale last night. It will, yeah, and their financial page is fun to explain too. If on the day that I made the sale, I'm going to have to get like your number, you'll see it down towards the bottom of the page. And then the next day, these funds become available and they show up on the top number. And that causes a lot of confusion too. People will ask, well, how come I don't have any funds up here? Well, you got to wait the 24 hours if you're an established shop. I'll find out how long you have to wait if you're not established. Then when the money appears up at the top of the page, it's in green, you are allowed to ask for that to be deposited. Now, some people like to do it once a month. Some people do it once a week. Some people do it every day, which is business days. You can ask for that deposit, but it won't transfer over until it's not a banking holiday. Today's Friday. I have money there. I could click send my money, and it'll. Some banks take longer. My bank, it's there the next. Mine, it will be there Monday, the very next banking day, not Saturday or Sunday, and not like a Martin Luther King Day or something like that where the post office is closed. Some banks will take longer for that money to actually get deposited. I think it's 3 business days.
For me, it's every day if it's over $25. Okay. Yeah, like I said, at the beginning, I had to wait 3 days after they received it, and they had to give me a notification of a feedback. Now I don't see that anymore. So it may be because I was still new back then when it happened. It also has to be over $25 to every day, no fees back required to get paid out. Okay. What are some of the tips you would like to give for those who are thinking about getting into Etsy, but may not know of what kind of questions to ask?
Yeah.
But again, haven't done it yet.
And no question is silly, you guys.
Right.
I would ask them, there is a lot of vintage clothing on there. And I noticed they are using the word vintage in their title. So I believe it's okay to use the word vintage in your title, but it really messed up my search. And trying to help people with the basics of search is like me trying to tell you how to use an L.E. Smith glass lamp that's broken. It is my opinion that Etsy search is not working to our benefit. I'll put it that way. When I would type in the words vintage clothing, some things would populate down below. It gave me the option to choose women's 1990s, which I thought this is what Glamis is probably going to be doing a lot of. So I clicked on that. The word vintage disappeared from my search. I wish I could. The vintage was in the person's title, but it disappeared from my search, if that makes sense at all. I know. I don't know that it will. But then anytime I tried to search, my search was really messed up. I actually had to close out that browser and start all over. And I couldn't even find my own items after I typed in the word vintage in my search. Wow. I have no explanation for what's going on with that. I did notice that the vintage clothing sellers are using the decade, whether they typed in 90S for 90s or they typed it all out 1990s. They were using that in their description, in their title. I didn't go in and look at tags, but they were using that, and there's some really nice stuff. I think the vintage clothing is a good category. I found some things I was interested in. The tip after you get your title, if you need help finding search terms for your title, type in like vintage clothing, and a list will populate of what terms customers are currently using to find those items. Retro was one I hadn't thought of. Retro is a great term to use, I think. Yeah, you can find new terms. So once you get your title, the difference between a stuffed title and a long title. A stuffed title uses the same word over and over and over. You don't need vintage top vintage 1990s, vintage shirt. You don't need it. You just put the vintage or the shirt or the top one time in your title. If you use it over and over, that's considered stuffed. A long title is when you have enough relevant search terms that a customer is going to use them. Then my next tip, once you get your title in there, use your tags. A lot of people keep saying they're not being found, but then when I go to look, there's no tags. Your category that like women's clothing is an automatic tab because you stuck that in the category. But your tags come from your title. When you're like in your tag, you would put 1990s vintage, or you would do 1990s clothing. You would put your colors are another thing that you would put down in your tag. The size, anything that you think, whether it's formal or casual, those are the things that you want to put in your tags because that's what the person might be searching for. Once you get a good title in the tag, make sure your pictures are click worthy. Nothing worse than paying for ads and then nobody clicks on your picture because they can't see, the lighting is off. And you want to get like Lima said, you want pictures from all sides when you're doing the clothing.
Right. Okay.
So those are my tips.
You may have talked about this, but I have heard it's pretty difficult to get established as a new seller on Etsy because the veteran accounts are favored so much. Is that true?
I'm a veteran account and I'm not favored. I couldn't even find my listings last night. And I know that jewelry is saturated, but I have a niche of spoon earrings. I couldn't even find my spoon earrings last night.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't feel like I am favored. I didn't feel the love last night. Let me tell you, it was, ugh, why can't people find my earrings? But that's okay. I'm selling them everywhere else. It is hard to get established. I can tell you how I did it because I actually I first heard of Etsy in 2010 and it took me 2 years to list something. This is how I did it. This is not the only way. And I've told this story so many times, but I'm going to tell it again. I searched on Etsy how many spoon rings there were, and it was an astronaut. I want to say 10,000. And I'm like, nobody is going to find me. There's 10,000 spoon rings. Nobody will find me. It was discouraging. But then I went to eBay and I searched spoon ring, and then it clicked in my mind, do a reverse search on highest price. What is the absolute highest spoon ring out there? And I know you might not believe me, but if you can actually Google this story about this ring. It was selling for $900. It was a Little Red Riding Hood spoon ring. It was being worn by an actress who was extremely relevant at the time, Kristen Stewart. She was photographed wearing this Little Red Riding Hood, also has the big bad wolf. It was tying into the Twilight series. I'm not kidding, $900. You can fact check this. So I then started searching for the spoon. I found one. I paid $100 for this spoon. I knew I had something. This is my opportunity to list on Etsy. There were maybe six rings were listed at the time, and people had a wait list. They were taking names as a wait list. You don't need to go this extravagant, but this, if you can find, like if you're going to do vintage clothes. Okay, so I bought this spoon. I made the ring. I listed it. I opened my shop. I listed it for $299, and within 3 days, I sold it. You can also fact check. If you go to my Etsy shop, go to the reviews, look at the reviews. On my very first review, on page 1 of my reviews, is a picture of the ring and the review that my very first customer left. That's one way to get started. Another way to do it is just do it. You're going to pay 20 cents to list something. Just do it.
Now, also, isn't that like every 3 months, though, for you to pay that total?
4 months.
4 months.
The listing is good for 4 months.
Yeah.
You'll pay 20 cents for 4 months.
I do not ship overseas, but would like to start offering it. Is there anywhere you would not ship to?
Yeah, a lot of places. If you're going to ship to Germany, you have to register with Germany, I think. I'm reading this because I only ship in the United States, so I don't know a lot, but I'm reading you have to actually register with Germany that your packaging fits their criteria. If you don't do that and your package gets to customs in Germany, they don't send it back to you. They just destroy it. Now, if I'm wrong about that, I apologize, but that's why I stopped. A good place to start, Jennifer, would be Canada. If you want a place to start, I would start with Canada. Another place I found very friendly was Australia. The customers, I love Australian customers, and New Zealand. Oh my gosh, they're like so nice.
So do you use commas and periods in your titles?
No, I use 0 punctuation. The commas don't help you. Or these little slashes that people use. It's wasting a character that you could put in a word that does matter later on. Google ignores the punctuation, and I also see people putting slashes and then no space. Google needs a space between your words, so I do not use punctuation at all. I do use phrases that make sense to the customer.
If you have multiple quantities, are you charged the listing fee every time one sells?
Yes, and let me take a deep dive into that 20 cents. I always forget to say it's for 4 months. So yes, the listing fee of 20 cents is for 4 months. Let's say I list some earrings and I have 4 pair of earrings. When I list that, I put the quantity of 4, but when I list it, I get 1 20-cent charge. Okay, they're not going to charge me for 80 cents because I listed 4. One, if that sells in 2 months, halfway through my 4-month time, if one of them sells, it's going to automatically relist the other 3. And at that time, at the time of sale, if you still have another quantity, you will be charged your second 20 cents.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Do you recommend, say you have an item that's been sitting there for a while, do you recommend either one, going in and maybe changing the titles, maybe doing some description changes? What do you recommend if you have an item that's been sitting there for a while that has not sold?
I do. If something expires, I have all of my listings set to manually relist, which means when it expires, it goes into my expire folder, and I can go in and decide from there if I want to relist it or not. Now, I kind of stopped relisting everything that expires because I feel like and if someone knows, does this drag your shop down now with this new artificial intelligence that they're using? If something expires, does that drop me down? I don't know. Before I relist anything, though, every single time I go into it and I look at my title, is there any improvement that can be made? Then I go and look at my tags. Does it match? Look at your pictures. Look at your description. Look at and sometimes they Etsy has added in this new upcycled, recycled. There's new things to click on, like we didn't already have enough. But look at that listing. If it's something you're like, man, this really should be selling, like my earrings, like nobody can find them, they're probably going to expire. I guess you could adjust the price. I don't. I'm not very good. One thing I like about Etsy is that we're not constantly going back and forth with the customer regarding price. They don't. Hi, Mark. They don't offer the option of making offers. So I have gotten into the habit of pricing things the lowest that I will take. I don't know if that's a good strategy, but I don't usually play with price because I don't think it's the price. I really do feel like it's something to do with the search.
Okay.
So before you relist it, I recommend looking at those pictures, because if your picture isn't click worthy, everything else you've done is it just won't help you.
When you have a endless replenishable, what do you think is good quantities to list as available?
I go with 5 or 6, but I do have a listing on there. It's that handmade supply thing. I could list a lot more, but I have 1-day shipping handling. So if someone comes in and orders so many, it was off Etsy. Someone placed a huge order. It took me all week to work on it. If that had happened on Etsy, I would have gotten myself into trouble making all of that huge order and getting it out the next day. So I never list more than if like the worst happened and everything sold, would I still be able to get that out within my processing time? So make sure that your quantity is something you can handle within your processing time. I do see shops that have 10, you know, and if you're doing like a decal, I could see that. I could see somebody wanting 10 decals. So if you can do that, then you should definitely list it. I go with 5 or 6.
My Etsy shop is all jewelry. Have other vintage stuff that I want to list too. Would you put it all into one shop, or should I make another shop to list it?
Okay, you're asking me what I would do. I know other people do multiple shops. I will only have one shop on Etsy. I have one email to check. A customer can see everything you have, and you will get custom. People are, when they love your shop, they are loyal to you. There's a rule. Etsy has a rule that will get you shut down, and not everybody knows this rule. If you have more than one shop on Etsy, even if it's a buyer-only account, you must show all of your shops that you have must be shown. I believe it's your about section. It might be in your about section. You have to list every shop that you have, even your buyer-only accounts. If you don't do that on all your shops, you could possibly get shut down. And the little Etsy self-appointed police officers love to report that one because they know it works.
I was wondering because I thought you can only have one store.
You can have one store. That's the other thing. It's highly regulated. You can have multiple stores if they're different categories. If I tried to open up a spoon ring shop and a spoon bracelet shop, I would get shut down. They're competing with each other. They think that you're trying to control search by having more than one shop. If you have completely different things, and the reason you want 2 shops is so you're not confusing to the customer. If Jennifer has handmade items and she does not want her customers to become confused that her vintage items are not handmade, that is a legit reason to have 2 shops. Just you need to link them in your about section. Everybody needs to know you have 2 shops.
So Etsy, I thought it was all handmade goods.
It is handmade. I'm sorry, Mark. It's handmade, vintage 20 years or older is how Etsy defines vintage. Or you can sell, I always forget the word, supplies. If it's inherently a supply.
Oh, supplies like for if you're creating jewelry,
beads.
Or
your
if
beads.
Okay, or
yes,
trading cards, card stocks, and that kind of thing.
Yes. If it's something that's inherently a supply. One example that doesn't, even though it's there, just because you see it, is like a sweatshirt blank that you would maybe print on. Sweatshirts, this is Etsy's definition. I got it right from their handbook. A sweatshirt is not inherently a supply because you could wear it without doing anything to it. So you're not supposed to be listing blank sweatshirts. Where if you had a bead that you really couldn't wear a bead unless something was done to it, it's a craft supply, you can list beads.
Is Etsy a good place to sell cards? Now, are you talking about specifically like sports cards, Pokemon cards, things like that in general?
Yes.
It's all cards, not just one. All
cards. You are not going to be able to list sports cards unless they're vintage, but I actually would really, I'm guessing vintage sport cards would be okay.
What is the return policy on Etsy and how is that handled?
As a shop owner, you can set your own return policy, and you can even set different policies according to what you're selling. You don't have to have a blanket no returns. You can pick, say on vintage items, you don't want to have returns. You can set no returns for those items, but say you have a handmade items, you want to say accept returns, you can do that. So you can have multiple return policies on your listings. But Etsy can override you at any time. Now, they have a seller protection. If your item or order total is below $250, you're protected under their seller protection. If your item, if you're selling a prom dress that's $300, they don't protect you on that. And the person can return it or not. It's very complicated, and it's really individualized. Is what I should say. Is that you could have be forced into a refund even if you do not accept returns.
So if I source a like new hand crocheted baby Afghan, I can't list that on Etsy?
If you did not crochet it, you cannot list it on Etsy.
You have to find your own path. And I think that's what Johnny's trying to say with all these different people that are coming in and talking about different platforms, that you have to find your own path.
Correct.
And